Do you like having your data stolen, having to change your passwords all the time because your data keeps getting leaked and your passwords are getting leaked, and not being able to watch shows when they actually release in other countries and waiting for it to come to your country? If you do, then great, keep doing you. But for the rest of us, a VPN has become much less of a want and more of a need over time. At this point, I'm pretty sure you know what a VPN is, but to put it simply, it is a service that encrypts your online data and masks where it's coming from, hiding your location in the process. This allows you to be safe from data leaks, stops ads and malware, and with Atlas, you can easily protect all of your devices at once. If you click the link below, it'll take you to their special offer of just $1.99 per month for 3 years. Yes, you heard me correctly. For less than the cost of going out and getting chicken nuggets once a month, you can protect yourself from online data leaks and from people potentially stealing your credit card information. Again, thank you to Atlas VPN for making this video possible. And if you click the link down below, you will be able to go and see their 82% off sale, which is just $1.99. Disclaimer: I am not a professional. I do not have a degree. I am your friendly neighborhood YouTuber that likes good writing, that unfortunately has some personal ties to themes in the show and have seen some of these behaviors present in some of the characters of the show be used against me in my own life. This video will be very opinion based and it will be from personal experience. So if you don't like topics of abuse, manipulation, love, and codependency, then grab a Capri Sun on your way out and I'll see you in 2 weeks when we talk about a happier topic. I thought I was going to make a lot of enemies with the Vi and Caitlyn video, and I was pleasantly surprised that I was very, very wrong about that. Hooray! 3 cheers all around. We're no longer in the Neolithic era. With that said, I'm still determined to burn my channel to the ground by saying things that need to be said. Silco and Jinx. The fascination of many, including myself. As evident by the fact that I have done a video on each of them, specifically looking at each of them in turn, and the incredible writing and voice acting and planning and thought that went into building these characters up and bringing them to us. But one thing that has continually bothered me is the praise that this relationship gets as a good, healthy father-daughter relationship. Because, well, in my opinion, no, it is not. It is a loving relationship, but not a healthy one. From what I saw and what I felt watching it, it feels like a very real, raw, dangerous, codependent, abusive, toxic relationship. Oh, hold on. I can already hear all of this Silco x Jinx stans furiously typing the rebuttals as I speak, but let me first explain why I say this, where I'm coming from, and my perspective on not just the abuse that's shown in the show, but how abuse is written in films in general. And at the end of the video, you are free to comment whatever you wish. You hear me out, I will listen to you. Fair deal? All right, let's begin. Abuse isn't a laughing matter topic, nor is it one that should be written for or played for humor. Old Hollywood is a perfect example of what not to do. Playing misogyny and toxic relationships for laughs, or even going so far as to glorify them as the standard of what a relationship should be. Thankfully, as times change, films change with them, and now we have more examples of abuse written for what it is. Abuse. I won't go into too many examples, but if you are interested in seeing how certain films aimed at different audiences handle and write the topics of abuse and manipulation, I have 2 quick suggestions for you. First off, and you will laugh, is Tangled. I know, a Disney movie, right? But this is a great overdramatic example of both gaslighting and manipulating. Using other people for your own gain, written in a very black and white, easy to understand way. Mother Gothel and Rapunzel have a very one-sided toxic relationship that is over the top, and yet somehow still believable in a weird way. On the other side of the spectrum for older audiences is one film that I would not recommend for the faint of heart, Marriage Story. There are examples of verbal abuse, Gaslighting, manipulation, emotional abuse, emotional trauma, all of this combined with some of the hardest to watch scenes ever put to screen. No, I am not joking when I say that. It is real, it is raw, and it is painful. It shows what happens when love is pushed beyond the breaking point. If you are a fan of dramatic drama films, give it a watch, but do know going into it, it is very intense. Coming back to Silco and Jinx in comparison to some of the more over-the-top examples that I've just shown, I think there's a couple things that people get tripped up on in their relationship that I want to share from my perspective. I've broken up the video into different topic sections so that way if you need to go back or rewatch a section, it's easier to do so. My experience, aka why I'm even talking about all of this. For obvious reasons of privacy, I will keep this brief. I went through an experience of emotional... Fuck, this is hard to say. I went through an experience of emotional and verbal abuse in a relationship. And with this came gaslighting, control, and manipulation to a point that I no longer trusted my own judgment and no longer trusted my own memories. It's a very real and very scary thing. Please know I am not looking for sympathy. I am not throwing this information out there lightly or to get attention. Both of us were adults about it, we made peace and went our separate ways in life. I'm saying all of this because it was an unfortunate event in the journey of my life. But it does allow me to have some insight into this topic and to be able to speak with some authority on the matter. As a last note before I start talking about the relationship, yes, I have seen Georgia Dow's video on their relationship, but I personally could not make it all the way through the full duration. And I mean this as no disrespect to Georgia. I'm sure she's a wonderful person and a wonderful therapist, but hearing the unadulterated praise for the relationship while watching behaviors that I have seen used against me in my own life started to trigger things from my past to a point that I had to close the video and physically walk away to go and deal with it. Now, hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with this video and can understand what I'm about to say. Isolation. I made this point in the Jinx video and saying that Silco isolated Powder from the world to gain control over the relationship. And some people didn't exactly agree with me, going so far as to say that Jinx had free reign to do whatever she wanted, tons of friends with Silco's goons, friends with Savika, and that people were even flirting with or had crushes on her. Let's address this. When somebody suffers intense trauma, the number one thing you do not do is isolate them. It's why abusers and manipulators cut you off from your family and your friends. It's much easier to control somebody if you hold the power of that person's needs. Now, Silco doesn't necessarily consciously do this, but he does do it all the same. Why do I say this? If we look before the time skip, Powder really only has one true friend in Echo. If Silco was truly the caring, gentle, reformed man after Powder hugged him, he would seek out Echo to reunite the two so they could grow and heal, as well as seeking out people that Powder may have known from her past through Vander's connections at the last drop. Vander was a very well-liked leader from the Undercity and ran the Undercity from the front room of the last drop. So, reasonably, there would be people and connections to help Powder. Does Silco do any of this? Well, no. But it's understandable why he doesn't do any of this. Silco, although he does care about this new child that he's somehow found himself caring for, still also cares about his revolution and, leading the Undercity, and is willing to do anything for that. Almost anything. Yes, he gives Powder space to be herself, but he also closely monitors her until she starts to get out of control after the time skip. Now, I'm going to cut some people off at the pass here. If she truly did have friends during the time skip, then that would be a big enough detail for us to see the ramifications of, or to see examples of after the time skip. The only reason why I say that Silco kept control and close watch on her during her growing up is because everybody in the show comments on it. They always tell him, well, Jinx has finally gotten off the leash. You have to bring her back in. You have to reel her back in. So it was clear that Silco was keeping a close eye on her, but she started to get out of hand because things started to spiral out of control. So no, you cannot use well, it totally happened in the time skip and she totally has friends, but you just don't see them excuse. I'm sorry, I'm tired of hearing this. If it was a big enough detail, they would have handled it like everything else in the show and shown it. Powder and Savika are not friends. They have a bumpy relationship together, to say the very least. Even going so far as for Savika to say to Silco,
she's a problem and we all know it.
We? Who's we?
advising Silco to get rid of her. I will grant you there is a tender moment when Savika tells him to be patient and that she will come back. But it's clear that she's saying this for his sake, not for her. And for those saying that Chuck is flirting with Powder in this scene or has a crush on her, look, you don't have to tell me that you've never touched a woman in a YouTube comment. You really don't have to tell me that. I don't need to know that detail. Point is, Silco, whether by choice or through a chain of cause and effect, cut Powder off from anybody she may have ever known and isolated her. This, in combination with him being the parental authority figure in the relationship, means that control and abuse can happen, whether intentional or not, very easily. Codependency. What happens when two broken people meet and begin to form a relationship on shared pain? What happens when that relationship is also cut off from any outside interference, meaning that the two involved parties see each other as their only means for healing and fulfillment in one way or another? What if one party also had neglect in their childhood, leading to insecurities of not being enough for people and having a constant need for reassurance that they are in fact enough? Codependency happens. To put it in the simplest and easiest to explain and understand way, codependency means that you have nothing other than the other person in the relationship. This becomes very dangerous very quickly, as the people involved become fearful that the other may leave and begin to act uncontrollably to maintain control on the relationship, doing things that they would have never agreed to do before, or taking drastic actions. Many people who have been in abusive situations can attest to just how powerful a motivator it can be, especially when used in perfectly damaging ways. But how was this written into Arcane? Let me think.
She's back.
From the dead. She and the Enforcer are back for the crystal. Not for you.
Okay, I think you get the point. We expected Powder to be dependent on Silco, that was kind of a given, but in a twist, we see that the both of them are codependent on each other, which is a nice twist. It adds a lot of depth and believability to the both of them, with Silco going to extreme lengths to not lose Powder to Vi. This is stellar writing. It shows the depths and complexities of the relationship, that it's not just one-sided, but it also makes it all the more tragic. Unknowing manipulation and abuse. I said something that I've learned in my own life in the Jinx video. It's important to know that love alone is not enough to make something healthy. As romantic as it is to think that love conquers all, love is still an emotion. And while love is powerful, it is an emotion that can be weaponized. Even more tragically, it can be weaponized without conscious effort or thought. You can genuinely do things that you think are for the benefit of the other person, but in reality are forms of manipulation and abuse. Sheltering somebody from others when in reality, what they need is people around them to heal. Telling that person to face their past and instead of accepting the things that happened, cover them up and kill the past to become somebody entirely different. This can become even more prevalent in people who have been abused unknowingly or have had rough upbringings. They adapt to their surroundings and adopt habits that they themselves don't fully understand, and as they believe, it's just the way things are and it's just the way things work. Silco's decisions send Powder on a downward spiral of psychosis and pain, cutting her off from Echo and really anybody else that may have been able to help or that she may have known. He gaslights her and telling her that Vi doesn't care about her, that she's only interested in the stone. He gives her a new persona to embrace the recklessness and irresponsibility of her actions. Look, I love these characters as much as anybody else, but the signs are there. It's like admiring a piece of art and ignoring the fact that it was painted in blood. A bit of a dramatic metaphor, but I think you get the idea. Silco loved her and shows glimpses of being a good father. The heartbreaking thing is that Silco shows signs and glimpses of being a wonderful father. He accepts Jinx, comforts her, trusts her with everything from his eye serum to his vulnerability. He unequivocally stands up for her time and time again, defending her. He cherishes her doodles and scrawlings as shown by the ashtray on his desk and the paintings everywhere in his office. It's like a little kid giving their drawings to their dad, and he's so proud of them. He shows tenderness and patience to her that he doesn't show to anyone else, and Jinx is comfortable around him because of that. And even in the end, giving her a final validation, reminding her that she is enough. And that's what makes it hard. That's what makes it real. It's what makes the abuse and manipulation going on inside of the relationship all the more real and heartbreaking. Oftentimes, we don't see what's happening unless we are observing things from the outside looking in. I feel like the writers did an excellent job of capturing what this looks like from all perspectives, both inside and outside of this relationship. And I think that's why so many people hold this relationship up as relationship goals. But I would encourage you to watch the show through a second time and maybe a different light. Really watch the body language, what's being said, and what's happening in the context of the situation as a whole, not just in the individual scenes. Personally, for me, I was very uncomfortable when I was watching the show and watching these scenes. But what makes me more uncomfortable is seeing people laud this relationship because it worries me. It worries me that people will either seek out these kinds of relationships in their own lives or look to emulate them in ones that they're already in. I can speak from a perspective of warning. Please look at this as a cautionary tragedy of the very worst that can happen when love alone isn't enough. The pain that comes from putting your trust into somebody that either knowingly or unknowingly uses you and uses that information against you. I would encourage you to look at this as a caution to cultivate a healthy relationship and to not rely solely on just one emotion. As a final note, I just want to thank the writers of this show for not shying away from difficult, thought-provoking topics, for giving us role models of people to aspire to be like, as well as giving us tales of caution and warning. And if you take nothing else away from this video, please be kind to yourself. Hi. Welcome to the end of the video. This was an intense one, And I know I didn't talk as much or at length as much as I normally do about film, writing, storyboarding, all that kind of stuff that I normally do. I will be getting back to that kind of content soon. This was something that I needed to get off my chest so I can move on with my life personally. I'm not going to lie. But it was also something that was important for me to make a video on and to speak on. And I really hope that on some level this video resonated with some people out there. Maybe it resonated with you. And I hope some of the things that I have shared in this video will stick with you. As always, be kind to yourself. Take care.